Thank you. So the name of the message today is called The Healing Energy of the Divine Feminine. Of course, it's Mother's Day, so we're paying attention to the feminine versus the masculine healing energy, which there also is in our world. So this month, we're planting seeds that will support the harvest of a new humanity. Yeah. What kind of a goal is that, huh? Is that setting the bar a little too high or not? But maybe that's really why we're here. Maybe that's what we're here for, setting that bar high, doing something different. And maybe we are standing on the precipice of something pretty big, if we're willing to do it. Last week, Reverend Debbie quoted the I Ching, and she said, before the beginning of great brilliance, there must be chaos. Now, I suppose none of you have seen any chaos lately. Maybe you haven't opened the newspaper, maybe you haven't turned on the TV or listened to the radio. There's chaos all around. So we're prepared for the beginning of great brilliance because we know we are experiencing the chaos right now. But today, we're talking about healing energy, the healing energy of the divine feminine. And I just want to go over a couple of the characteristics when we talk about, as I said, there's also healing of the divine masculine. Today we're focusing on the feminine, and we all have both of those energies within us to a degree. And the good part is if we got a balance, that we're not all one way. That balance like the yin-yang. So on the feminine side, there are things like intuitiveness, heart-centered, compassion, wisdom, accepting, forgiving, collaborative, reflective. These are all the feminine stuff, creative, kind, gentle. Okay, that kind of rings true, doesn't it, about the feminine? Then on the masculine side, there are things like protection, discipline, authority, guidance, responsibility, leadership, logic, action, stoic, confident. When my kids were little, I think it was Chris who was sick. She was just a little baby. And her dad, Steve, was holding her. He was sitting in a chair holding her, and I heard him say to her, "I wish I could be sick for you." No wonder I waited so long to divorce him. I mean, he had some of that kindness and that gentleness and that love within him. And of course, some of you know that he died just a few months ago, and I had the opportunity to have him in my house for the last few weeks of his life. And what a special privilege and opportunity that was for me in a kind of getting reacquainted with him. So we all have those traits, and that's a good thing. We want that balance in our lives. So I want to go talk a little bit about the origins of Mother's Day. Why did we start celebrating it? And some of it goes back to ancient history, but in the United States, a lot of it stems from this woman named Julia Ward Howe. And she was the woman that wrote the words to the Battle Hymn of the Republic. Now, the Battle Hymn of the Republic is kind of a masculine song. It goes, "Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He has trampled out the vintage where the rapes of wrath are stored. He hath loosed the fateful lightning of his terrible swift sword. His truth is marching on." Pretty masculine stuff. And yet she, in 1872, really came up with the idea of an International Mother's Day. And it wasn't so much to honor mothers as it was to establish peace. It was after the Civil War, and she was interested in let's not have war no more. That was what her thoughts were. And Marianne Williamson goes on to write about this too. She says that in the South, the mothers after the Civil War who had lost sons got together with the mothers of the North, and they decided to have a special day. And again, not so much to honor the mothers, but to honor their sons and to really inspire women of the world to talk about peace. I usually bring Dee Ray with me to church, and almost every Sunday on the way, she says, I can't believe we're still having war. Shouldn't we have evolved beyond that? And ain't that the truth? You know, why are we still shooting at each other to solve problems? So where do we stand? Let's make Mother's Day a day when we can all stand for peace, beginning where we are with ourselves. That's where it has to start. We have to start with peace in our own hearts first. Sort of like when you're on the airplane and something happens, you want to take that mask and you want to put it on you first and then look to see who else you can help. Same thing here. We want to get that peace generated in our own hearts. And then we can reach out. Now, what we really want to do in our lives is we want to have experiences of the good that is out there. We want to experience this stuff, this healing of our hearts, so we can reach out. And one of the things we want to do is hear about the experiences that we've had right here in our midst. Now, a few weeks ago, Carol Robinson came up here and she told a story about, it was a very simple demonstration of answer to prayer, and it was something about a bookcase that she wanted, and she decided to take it into prayer and pray that indeed she would be able to manifest this bookshelf easily and effortlessly. And boom, I mean, it was done. It was just a very good story. And today I'm going to ask Marv to come up, and he's going to share something with us. Marv? And he told me it was going to be a surprise.
I want to apologize for my voice this morning, but I can assure you it's just allergies. I've been fighting allergies most of my adult life. I know how they affect me. I'm absolutely positive it's just allergies. So this is what I've been wanting to tell you. I have had the exact same experience 3 times in my life. The first was when I was in college. At the beginning of my second year, I met a transfer student, fell completely in love with her. She felt the same way, so we were engaged. A short time later, it occurred to me, I should really have prayed about such a major decision. So I prayed then, and I told God that while I truly believed I had found the one I was supposed to spend my life with, I was crazy about her. If by any chance I was making a mistake, and I could be given a sign that I understood, I would give her up. I would break the engagement. And immediately, I was hit by what the Bible calls the peace that passes understanding. It was like the world stood still for a minute. I knew with absolute certainty that I had made the right choice, I was on the right path, and I should proceed, knowing that I had God's blessing. Then after graduation, I was hired to be the media director of a small advertising agency. And the first year, I loved it. I loved everything about it. And the second year, I hated it. I hated everything about it. And I fell into a pretty substantial depression. And I was finally ready to say a prayer that I had been dreading my entire life. Because even as a young boy, I had a strong suspicion God wanted me to be a minister, and I absolutely did not want to. I used to pray most earnestly, God, I'll do anything you want me to do as long as it's not being a minister. Ask me to do anything else, and I'll do it, and I meant it. But now, for the first time in my life, I prayed, okay, God, I'll do anything you want, even if it's to be a minister. And immediately, the peace that passes understanding shattered my depression, took it completely away, and I knew what to do next. Then after seminary, I was the pastor of 2 churches, 7 years each church. And at the end of 14 years, I had completely stopped growing spiritually. I was dead in terms of spiritual growth. I knew it. I knew I had to do something about it. So I left the pastorate, moved my family up here, and I was led to a tiny little congregation where the pastor was a spiritualist medium. She knew we were coming. She knew all about us. She knew exactly what we needed. And I thought at the time it was primarily for me, but it turned out to be even more important for my wife, because it was going to be the last 4 years of her life. 6 years previously, she had had a radical mastectomy. And 2 years after I moved here, the cancer came back, moving through her bones everywhere. Fortunately, we had received an inheritance. So I didn't work at all the last 2 years of her life. I was with her 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We did everything together, and we had a good time. And finally, when everything that was done that could possibly be done, and nothing was worked at all, she got so tired of fighting, she went into a mild coma and slipped peacefully away. And on that last day, my pastor kept me on the phone for nearly 3 hours while Linda was making her transition. And when I walked in that room and saw that she was gone, the peace that passes understanding practically lifted me off the floor. And I knew everything was fine, everything was good, everything was as it should be. And I could not be sad, which is something my family never understood. But 10 months later, I met a widow who had lost her husband under very similar circumstances, and we have now been together over 35 years. And all I want to do, as soon as this service is over, is go home and snuggle up with her.
Thank you, Marv. Well, somewhere along the way you found us, thankfully. Good to hear your story. Experiences, that's what Ernest Holmes says. All we know is what we've experienced. You know, if you haven't tried putting your life on the line like that, saying, you know, and my mother experienced that same thing after my dad died. She said, I walked from the kitchen to the living room after all you kids left, about a week after my dad died. And she said, I walked into the living room and I just stood there and I said, what am I going to do now? And she said, that hair on my arm stands up, that peace which passes all understanding came over me, and it never left. And, you know, because I asked her, she wasn't one to talk about this stuff, but I asked her a couple years after Dad died, I said, you never went through that? I've seen her sisters and her sister-in-laws lose their husbands, and, you know, they looked horrible for a couple years. They, you know, these people spent all their waking hours with their spouses, and she did too, and she told me that story. So all we know is what we experience, and what we're going to do now is we are going to do a little experiential exercise. First of all, of course, we want to heal ourselves, and then we want to be able to radiate that goodness and that light and that healing to everything and everyone in our world. So we know from our teachings that everything is already whole and complete. There is nothing that needs healing, but we don't feel that way, do we? Sometimes like, oh, I need healing. My relationships need healing. My finances need healing. My body needs healing. There's stuff that's wrong in my life. It doesn't all feel perfect, whole, and complete. And so the point is, a lot of this stuff, this healing stuff has to start in our heart. So let's look within and see, where is the pain? Where is the hurt? Where is the anger, frustration, fear, dis-ease? Where are we not at peace in our heart? And what I'm suggesting today, perhaps, you can absolutely take that peace that you're not at peace with and lay it on the altar and let her go. Dissipate it to its nothingness so you can be open, so you can radiate goodness, and we can do that business about harvesting a new humanity, which seems kind of highfalutin, and yet first we got to heal what's in here. So to set the stage for this, I want you to think of a time in your life, if you can, where you felt like you were very safe, very loved, very supported, had all kinds of compassion, protected. Sometimes that might look like sitting on the rocking chair with your grandma or your mom. Sometimes it might be at a family gathering where you're around all these people that you really like and you feel really, really good to be there with all these people. I've had a lot of those experiences when I grew up because I had a loving family. The thing that comes to my mind when I think of things like this is when I was 16 years old, I had some very good friends, and we were at a lake near my house, and we were out on a raft at night. It was like a full moon, and I don't know if we had just jumped in the lake and swum out there and sat on that raft or how we got there, but we're all sitting on the raft, the moon is shining. And I still remember that. It's just a visceral feeling. It's just right into my bones, that feeling of peace and protection and love and support. I just felt so good to be there. It wasn't intellectual. It was real earthy, instinctual. And that's kind of what I'd like you to go for, too. If you can think of a time where you really, really felt that love and that protection, compassion, etc. So we're going to do two things. You got to remember that what needs to be healed in your heart, and where's that safe place. Now, some people may be sitting there saying, I can't. And of course, when we play games like this in prison, there are people in those circles that are going to say, never been there, never been in that safe place. I came from a horrible family, and of course, he's in prison now. You don't always feel safe there either. So if there is indeed somebody in here that hasn't had that feeling, you haven't had that raft experience or that grandma in the rocking chair experience, consider thinking about this room. Because I'll tell you right now that higher power that created everything and everything that is, everyone, everything that is the light within me, and I am willing and able to radiate that light to everybody in this room and just envelop you and imbue you. And I would say that a lot of you in this room are in that same situation. You know that you have that light within you, and I think you too are willing to let that light shine and envelop and enfold this room. So you can use this room as that safe place. And whatever it is that you have that you want to let go of, or that peace that you want in your heart, whatever it is that isn't at peace in your heart, whether it's a relationship or money problems, whatever it is, be willing to take that situation to that place, to let it go, and it can be dissipated to its nothingness. Here you might think about, hey, I'll just take it up to that, where all those flames are, let it burn up to its nothingness. On the raft, I can just say dissipate to the nothingness. That we can do this. Our brains, our minds are so powerful, and it's so helpful to get ourselves healthy, get our own hearts healthy, so that we can then reach out to other people. So let's just take a deep breath. Close your eyes if you like, and just go to that place. Go to that place that's safe, filled with love and compassion. Just a safe place to be. Let yourself be imbued by love. You know you're protected. Just melt into that very place. Bask in it. Be imbued by it. And now go to that place in your heart that needs healing, whatever it is, a relationship, money problems, thought problems, depression, whatever it is that you want to just let go of. Take it to that place right here and right now. And just visualize that situation being dissipated to its nothingness. Oh, what a sense of freedom that is. What a sense of joy that is. Just bask in that for a moment. Bask in that freedom, that lightness of heart. Just allow yourself to be nourished and nurtured in this safe place without that difficulty that has been hanging around you, which is now dissipated to its nothingness. Take a deep breath. Just let yourself bask. Just appreciate in gratitude the good that God provides for all of us and how we can accept this good just simply by saying yes. Just like Marv said, whatever we need, we can just speak our word, take it to God in prayer. After you've basked a little bit in that, just let your consciousness come gently back to this time and place, and know that it is indeed done unto you as you believe. And with that, I'd like to end with a spiritual mind treatment, which is an affirmative prayer. I'll say it in first person, as though it's for me, but it's for all of us. So I know there is but one power in the universe, and it is a power of unconditional love. It is perfect health, it is peace, it is joy. It has the perfect solution to any perceived dilemma in my life. It's all good. And I know I am one with it. It experiences life in, through, and as its creation. In, through, and as me and every person. And even though in the past I've kind of carried around some of the weight of the problems and the concerns and the challenges and the difficulties in life, even in the past that's been true, I now let that go. That weight has been lifted, dissipated to its nothingness. Now I have this sense of being nurtured and nourished by that feminine healing energy that we're talking about today. What a sense of freedom and joy imbues me. How grateful I feel, grateful for letting this burden go, grateful for the faithfulness of the law. My word has been spoken, and I know it is done unto me as I believe. I release these words to that beneficent conspiracy and say, so it is.